You break the rules and become a hero. I do it and I become the enemy. That doesn't seem fair.
Hey, welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and it looks like we finally know the original plot of Doctor Strange 2 that would have reportedly tied into Wanda's story much better than WandaVision. The leaker, My Time to Shine Hello, shared information about leaked concept art and the synopsis of the movie that they said was actually confirmed by X-Men 97 Season 1 showrunner Beau DeMaio, who we should note was fired by Marvel for sexual misconduct. So we're going to talk about this deleted movie and how it could have actually tied in better with WandaVision and why Marvel decided to go a different way. And a little later, I'm going to talk to Brianna and Colton to get their take on this so we can really break down if this was the right move for Marvel to make or if there was a much better Doctor Strange 2 out there that we never got to see. But before we get into those leaked details, I want to remind you guys about the Marvel parody merch for sale at our merch store like Downey Doom and I'm about to make a name for myself, and many more shirts that we have designed for you. Shopping our merch store helps out our channel and the links are below. So first, let me provide you with a little background here. WandaVision and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness were both announced at Comic-Con in 2019, just a few months after Avengers Endgame, and they were announced along with other films from Phase 4 and the new Disney Plus streaming series. The original creative team consisted of Doctor Strange director Scott Derrickson and writer Jade Halley Bartlett. It was also announced at that Comic-Con that the Scarlet Witch would appear in this movie, but they didn't announce in what capacity Wanda would appear. Soon, it became apparent that the studio and Scott Derrickson were moving in different directions. In October 2019, Derrick posted, "Based on my own experience and recent conversations with 5 other tentpole directors, the most common challenge/difficulty for event movie filmmakers is getting unwanted major script changes in pre-production." In December 2019, he posted 3 now deleted tweets that indicated he was struggling with Marvel. 1. Studio release dates are the enemy of art. 2. Most major life choices come with major regrets. It's unavoidable. But the worst choice is not choosing at all. Hell is sitting down at the crossroads. And finally, thank you Rian Johnson has just been trending just 2 days after he took time out of his vacation to talk with me at length about a personal situation I'm dealing with. And finally, in January 2020, he announced that he and Marvel had parted ways due to creative differences. So all of those tweets seem to put together a picture that behind the scenes, Derrickson was really struggling with Marvel Studios' input on his film. And then, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic pushed back everything. The release date of Multiverse of Madness was pushed back from May 2021 to May 2022. That extra time gave Marvel a chance to shop around for a new writer and director whose vision would align with theirs. So they chose Loki head writer Michael Waldron and the great Sam Raimi. Now, Multiverse of Madness was a fun Sam Raimi movie, but fans and cast members had their problems with it. For one thing, the multiverse is like barely in it. There's one sequence where they trip balls through dimensions. The Illuminati cameos were also brief and distracting, but worst of all, the movie completely undermined Wanda's arc from WandaVision. In that show, she deals with her grief over the loss of Vision by altering the reality of a New Jersey town to turn it into her own personal sitcom. But by the end of the series, she's come into her own as the Scarlet Witch, and she releases the townspeople, and she ends reeling with guilt over her actions. And then we got that post-credits tease where she's using the evil book, the Darkhold, and hears her children crying out to her. But then suddenly, at the beginning of Multiverse of Madness, Wanda is now a villain at the start of the movie.
When did that happen?
She begins the movie trying to hunt down and kill a teenager. She's not on a quest to save her kids from another dimension, like the WandaVision ending implied. Instead, she wants to steal her boys from some other reality. Even Elizabeth Olsen admitted that she felt burned by this decision, venting to Vanity Fair.
I proposed that to the writers who wrote Multiverse of Madness. I said, do you know what we're doing in WandaVision? Have you seen it? And no, they had not.
She even recently told Collider that Marvel didn't know what to do with her character. Now, Multiverse of Madness had its high points, the Sam Raimi horror, and look, Zombie Strange delivering a pep talk to a teenager is like one of my top tier Marvel moments.
When you're gonna kick that witch's ass.
But it does feel like a movie that was made by committee. Michael Waldron said that when he was brought on board, one of his first ideas was to make Wanda the villain at the start of the film. And we also know that he was rewriting the screenplay as they were shooting the film. But apart from those revelations, we never really knew what the original Doctor Strange 2 would have looked like until now.
Oh, sorry, person, I have to take this. Hello? I have overdue back taxes on my bird. Didn't even know I had a bird.
Doug, hang up.
But I'm in legal trouble. Also, Taylor Swift wants to give me Radio Shack gift cards.
Dude, for one thing, Radio Shack is out of business. That's a scam call.
Oh. Well, how did they get my number?
Well, dude, that's what's really messed up. They bought your number legally from online data brokers. See, the internet is filled with shady people like that who are going to pay big money just for access to your private data. And I know this because I used to get a ton of spam phone calls and emails.
But you don't get those calls anymore?
Very rarely, because I signed up for Incogni. They're the sponsor of this video. Incogni is by far one of the best products we talk about on this channel. This is the app that they don't want you to know about. And you can sign up using our link below using the code ScreenCrush at incogni.com/ScreenCrush. You would be shocked how much of your personal information is just out there for purchase on the internet, like your address, your phone number, credit history, and your medical history. These shady companies can get your info so easy that it's scary. Like, have you ever noticed you sign up for like a loyalty card and then suddenly you get bombarded with targeted ads or robocalls? That's because these companies sell your data to giant firms called data brokers, and then they sell your information to all these advertisers and other companies. So far for me, Incogni has found 339 companies that were selling my sensitive information. I mean, guys, we're talking financial details, health history, internet search history, and they were selling this information to the highest bidder. Incogni even tells you the dangers associated with these companies. For instance, data leaks, spam calls, and even stalking. This is really scary stuff, but Incogni contacts these companies on your behalf, and they legally have to remove your information. Then Incogni alerts you when the request has been completed, and so far, they have completed 287 removal requests on my behalf. So my personal information is now being suppressed. After signing up, I got almost no spam, and I can't even remember the last time I got a phone call from my old friend, unknown number. So I highly recommend giving Incogni a try. It's an incredible service. Use my code ScreenCrush with the link below to get an exclusive deal, 60% off an Incogni plan. It is a great deal that you don't want to miss. So back to Doctor Strange. According to the leaker, My Time to Shine Hello, I have access to early information through concept art. So here's what the original plan was for Multiverse of Madness. The movie initially started with Wanda as a hero and not a villain. The original antagonist was Nightmare, and Wanda was supposed to help Doctor Strange reach and defeat him. However, Feige and Waldron decided to change the storyline. Waldron, who hadn't watched WandaVision, really wanted to make Wanda the antagonist. This led to a complete overhaul of the plot. At one point, Chthon was also going to play a significant role in the film, but Feige wanted to save that for later, possibly for a Scarlet Witch movie. Now guys, look, normally we would just say, hey, that's only one leaker. But then, fired X-Men 97 showrunner Beau DeMaio, who was developing X-Men 97 during this time, confirmed all of this. He even added more details. OG drafts did Wanda justice. Wanda was with Strange, recovering after Westview, feeling bad about what she did. She helps him, Wong, and Chavez, who she tutors to beat Nightmare across the multiverse, where she also sees her variants are happy with her kids. Still, Wanda resists, and she, not Chavez, helps Strange save the day against Nightmare, who turns out to be a Darkhold corrupted Strange variant. Also, she used her experience in WandaVision to warn Chavez about abusing her power. Only after saving the day, unable to resist finding a multiverse where she can be with her kids, does Wanda, sobbing, break from Strange and accidentally beheads Wong, who then tries to stop her from fleeing into the multiverse. That was the film's cliffhanger. According to DeMaio, this made far more sense, and even when she flees, Wanda is torn up by guilt in classic comic book fashion and keeps apologizing to Strange as she vanishes and leaves him with his dead friend's body. Now look, elements of this did make it into Waldron's draft. For instance, the original draft of the movie opened with a scene where Baron Mordo from Earth 616 confronts Wanda and then she beheads him. So I kind of believe all this, guys, and it really raises a lot of questions about how this would have changed the MCU, how it would have changed Doctor Strange, and would it have stemmed this negative attitude that slowly built toward the MCU throughout the early stages of the multiverse saga. So now, to dive into all that, I'm joined by Brianna McLarty and Colton Ogburn, who's trapped in our TV but doesn't know it, so please don't tell him. So Brianna McLarty, I know you're a massive Wanda fan. She's your favorite MCU character, and you and I have talked about how, we both felt like Wanda's arc from WandaVision was done dirty by Multiverse of Madness. First question is for both of you, but I want to hear from you first. Was the original version better from what we've heard?
It would have been so much better. It is like, it kills me a little bit that we didn't get that movie, because I could have been on board with the Wanda who just couldn't deal with the grief and couldn't deal with the tragedy of knowing that all of her other variants have their kids and she doesn't. I could have seen that. I could have even seen that going into a villain arc. And the ending sounded cool where she was like, I just have to go. But what we got in the actual movie it just made no sense. There was not continuity. And I feel like could have been a cool arc. And they just decided to get rid of it in order of just literally skipping steps. There were just so many missing steps. And I just also never really understood Wanda deciding to try to kill America Chavez, like that just seems very against her character as a character who loves her kids, to be like, let me murder a teenager. Like that never made sense to me. So I really would have her tutoring Chavez. That would have made so much more sense to me, even if like later it got to a darker point where she was like, I want her powers. Like having those steps could have made it a good movie, and it could have still had the horror elements with Nightmare. And instead we just got something that felt so slapped together and really just felt to me like a screenwriter who wanted to make his own movie and did not really care about the character, especially of Wanda.
Well, like like they admitted, they did not see WandaVision because it wasn't finished, but then for some reason they also didn't read the scripts. Like it seems like Marvel had a lot of siloing going on in that time that really hurt the overall picture and didn't allow for continuity. I've also said before that if your whole thing is going to be, well, the Darkhold turned Wanda evil, then you can't do that off screen. That needs to be seen play out over the course of a TV series or a movie, because all we know about the Darkhold is that Agatha had it. Colton, what about you? You're somebody I think who's got mixed feelings on Multiverse of Madness. Do you think this version, assuming the screenplay was made to the perfect expectations that it could be, do you think this version would have been better?
Yeah, I'm very, very mixed on Multiverse of Madness. It depends, what kind of day you catch me on, what my opinion of that movie is going to be. Yeah, I completely agree to Brianna's point. It really made no sense that she wanted to kill America Chavez, at least, from the jump like that, because she's taking this young girl and she wants her powers and she's willing to, use her for that power, which is exactly what we saw Wanda go through, with what happened, prior to Age of Ultron. And, we got those flashbacks in WandaVision. You would think Wanda would have some sympathy to that and not want to do that to someone else. So it just goes back to the point of, they didn't watch WandaVision. They didn't bother to read the scripts. And I have to say, anyone who tries to have the excuse of like, oh, well, it wasn't done yet. Come on. The scripts were done. The story was done. Work together. I know that Elizabeth Olsen was frustrated with that as well. To answer your question, yeah, I think it would have been better. And not just necessarily this specific outline. Any version of this story that actually connected to WandaVision, respected the arc that she had, showed the character as a hero at first, especially for those who even didn't watch WandaVision. It still feels like really random that, oh, Wanda's a bad guy. She was a freaking Avenger. We just saw her go toe-to-toe with Thanos, and she had that great scene with Hawkeye at the end of Endgame at Tony's funeral. She was a hero, and then just boom, Multiverse of Madness, she's a bad guy. There's no build-up. We don't get to see her get corrupted. So yes, I think this version, or any version that just took a little time to explore her character, would have been far better than what we got.
Brianna, I think you put it perfectly. You put it perfectly there, where you said it felt like a screenwriter who wanted to make their movie and not necessarily continue the same story. I thought that was a great point. Go ahead, I cut you off.
Well, also sort of adding to what Colton said, not only is she a bad guy, she's not just like the villain. She's like a serial killer in that movie. She murders so many people. Like she has one of the higher, barring Thanos' snap, she has one of the higher kill counts of villains. Like she just knocked out
Right.
all of Carmitage. She's a straight up serial killer. She's spree killed. Like that is not even as a villain like sudden change. That's a major heel turn from like, oh, I don't really like want to hurt people. That in like WandaVision she feels bad about hurting people, and then she's just like, no, murder everyone. Like just I'm a serial killer now.
Yeah, discovering
Deal
the
with it.
existence of the multiverse definitely turned her into like a Rick Sanchez level nihilist when she thinks that life doesn't matter. I had to go back and look at the notes on here. I think you're right. Apart from Thanos, she kills more superheroes in a single movie than any supervillain has ever done, which is, pretty impressive. And again, Sam Raimi had fun with that sequence. It was a fun sequence, but did it fit in with their character? So this does all go back to like what we've seen snippets of. I quoted these tweets earlier. I just want to read them for you guys again right now. We knew things weren't going well when Scott Derrickson tweeted, "It is difficult for tentpole filmmakers, directors. The most common challenge and difficulty is unwanted major script changes in pre-production." And then we had another tweet in December of that same year: "Studio release dates are the enemy of art." Now, his collaborator for this film wasn't C. Robert Cargill, his normal collaborator who he worked with on the first Doctor Strange. It was, I think, an in-house Marvel writer named Jade Haley Bartlett, who probably didn't put up as much resistance to being forced to make changes as, say, like a more seasoned veteran like C. Robert Cargill would have been. You can definitely see in those tweets that Marvel was putting their thumb on the scale. It seems like in this one, maybe they were under pressure to follow up WandaVision, see the Young Avengers with America Chavez, that they were just trying to throw as many things in as possible. And not to mention, and this is a big one too, this goes back to him saying release dates are the enemy of art, Spider-Man No Way Home, which originally was supposed to be released before Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And Spider-Man No Way Home was going to be where they introduced America Chavez. But the pandemic obviously threw a lot of that off. But then he resigned for the project before the pandemic, so we can't even blame that. So it seems like there were a lot of different studios and mixes and producers in there. What this makes me wonder, though, is do you guys think this was indicative of the problems that Marvel had during the multiverse saga? Like, are we seeing things in here that necessarily affected Thor, Love and Thunder, Loki, Quantumania? Colton, what do you think?
Well, I'm all for Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige putting their thumb on the scale. The Infinity Saga does not work without their thumb on that scale, making things interconnected and the stories being interwoven. You have to have studio interference for that type of universe to work. What's so surprising here is that, yes, I agree with you. And from these tweets and whatnot, we're seeing that they were putting their thumb on the scale in a negative way, like with things they were wanting to push and not letting the creatives be creative. But it's so surprising that with that being the fact, that it's so disconnected from WandaVision, from other things that they were setting up. I really think, to answer your question, what this shows is, yes, they just seem to have not known what they were doing during phase 4. I think they tried to reinvent the wheel. I think they tried to put a lot of extra grease on that machine that is, cranking out the MCU. Kevin Feige got stretched way too thin. I think their creative team that, keeps the MCU story, the entire structure of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that obviously got stretched too thin. And I think it got to a point where they were just making content for content's sake. And while the content on its own might be, mid, the MCU is expected to, one, be great. It used to be the case that when you turned on an MCU movie, you knew, okay, this is going to be a good time. It's going to work on its own and it's going to be connected to all these other movies I love. That's just not the case anymore. And yeah, I think Multiverse of Madness was one of the first examples of when things really started going downhill for the MCU.
Brianna, I want to just circle back to you on this because Colton said something interesting, that you need a little bit of the thumb on the scale of the studio, but look at a different example of this. We have the DC extended universe, right? Where it seems like the studio either had too little influence or too much. First, they told creators, do whatever you want. So you had wildly different tones, such as Batman versus Superman and Shazam. But then when they tried to force a tone or tried to force a tonal change, it changed midstream. So it has to be some kind of like overseeing of tone, but that doesn't A, step on the backs of creators, and B, make everything feel uniform. And this is where I want to ask you, Multiverse of Madness was a good Sam Raimi movie. If you detach it from everything else and it's just like a standalone film, I think you've talked before about how as a horror film, it works really well. So where do you think the balance is in a studio versus a creator? And was it worth it to get this Sam Raimi Doctor Strange movie?
Like I said, I have two wolves inside me. One of them is a Wanda Maximoff fan and the other is a horror movie fan. And so as a horror movie fan, I actually do really enjoy Multiverse of Madness in a vacuum. I think there are some really cool scenes. Like, I really love when she crawls out of like the gold mirror. Like, I think that's sick. It might actually be one of my like favorite VFX moments in all of Marvel, because I remember watching that in theaters and be like, oh my god, they just did that. Or when she like spaghettifies Reed Richards. That's sick. I just don't think those two things really had to be in opposition, because I think, well, at least according to the leak, one of the villains was Nightmare. You can still have a lot of the weird stuff. You could even have her crawling out of that like weird mirror, but just do it with she didn't have to be the antagonist to have the horror in it. And I think Sam Raimi, I think a lot of people blame him for this movie. I really don't think it's his fault. I think he delivered his style. Yeah, he was not the writer of the film. He delivered his style, and I think he did a really cool job with it. It is a little different from other Marvel films, but I'll be the first to say, I like when they do different things. Like, to some extent, tone be damned. If it's cool, it's cool. And I will like let it work, because it is supposed to be a whole universe that's going to have different things.
And we definitely needed, like I said earlier, to see that arc. There's also something in this movie, though, where we're applauding all these great Sam Raimi moments, but the studio did still interfere in those Sam Raimi moments. Here's a great example. Movie has a great Sam Raimi ending straight out of Evil Dead with the third eye popping up and Stephen Strange screaming. What a cliffhanger. Totally undermined in the post-credit scene where Clea shows up, which is, I think, a textbook example of Marvel trying to pack in too many big actors for too many post-credits teases that may or may not pay off 8 years in the future at this point. And again, I'm not trying to Marvel bash, but I think it's healthy for us to talk about all these problems, so we can see how they're improving and how they should go forward. Colton, there's another thing here too that we kind of overlooked before. I mentioned the Baron Mordo scene, the decapitation, seeming like it was taken from the Wong being decapitated in the original draft. But there's also the evil Strange. That Nightmare was not like he is in the comics, where he's a dimensional entity of nightmares. He's actually Stephen Strange. Whereas the Multiverse of Madness that we got kind of watered down this concept and gave us Sinister Strange, but for one fight. That was a very cool fight with the music notes, but it seemed like a lot of the elements that were part of this original draft got pulled out and Frankensteined and repurposed, and like Brianna said earlier, were placed in a draft that more closely resembled a story Michael Waldron wanted to tell and not necessarily something that was fitting in with the MCU proper timeline. Is there anything about this that makes you think, no, see, that's why that thing from this script is what would have really sold the multiverse saga, like Evil Strange?
Well, I have to say, I'm all for taking a protagonist hero played by a beloved actor and then, turning him into one of our many MCU villains, screencrushmerch.com. But yeah, I felt that, okay, one, what was he called? Sinister Strange? Is that what that variant was called?
Yes.
In the end of the movie? Yep. I felt like that should have been like Strange Supreme or something connected to What If. I would have loved for him to have been Nightmare. We can argue about this. I hate the music note fight. I hate that scene. I know some people say it's so quirky and awesome. I hate that scene.
At least it was different. It wasn't just laser beams.
Different.
And that's what I liked about it, yeah.
Yeah, sure. But it wasn't for me. I thought he would. I think Benedict Cumberbatch.
Wait, I'm sorry. Aren't you the guy who liked the scene where Flash caught CGI babies falling out of a building? And you actually said that movie was better than Across the Spider-Verse. Okay, no, I'm giving the people watching.
I said I enjoyed it more than Across the Spider-Verse.
But you have to remember, this is a guy who's very sheltered because he's trapped in a television and doesn't know it. So please don't tell him. Sorry.
I missed that last thing you said, Ryan.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
I've said that I think Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, is going to play a very key role in Avengers Secret Wars. We know she has reality manipulation powers. I think a big part of WandaVision was exploring just how powerful she is, not just at, shooting energy blasts, but actually creating things from the very fabric of reality and being able to, shift an entire reality, bring in she kind of had like this acknowledgement of the multiverse with the Quicksilver being played by what's his name, Evan Peters from the X-Men films. I thought that was all cool.
Brianna, do you think that given the setup that we have, that Marvel can still bring? Because Elizabeth Olsen said she'd be willing to come back if they do it right. Do you think that there is still a setup in here to bring your girl Wanda back and redeem her?
I think that they could bring her in to help defeat Doom. And that would help a lot. And I think she would be really strong. And I think she would probably be a linchpin for them. I think one of the other things they could do is I think it's implied, but it just was not shown well that the Darkhold was kind of like the One Ring from Lord of the Rings. If you have the Darkhold's literally getting in her head, Colton's totally right. It makes it so much easier for us to forgive her. And they just did a really bad job of showing that. Kind of do a throwaway line with Doctor Strange where they're like, it's not her anymore. She's been corrupted by the Darkhold.
Wanda's gone. She's got the Darkhold, and the Darkhold has her.
They don't ever really dwell on it. They never really make it seem like the book really did it. We don't even really see the book that much other than when they occasionally have to open it, do the little multiverse hopping. So if they were to kind of retcon / focus on that so that we felt it wasn't just her being totally crazy. It was actually this dark demonic influence. They could do it. I know they've talked about Sacha Baron Cohen being Mephisto. Maybe if there was some connection with the Darkhold to that, he was even trying to manipulate her with the Darkhold. They could do a lot of things that would make...
Or Nightmare, to keep it all in the family, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. There's so many things they could do to make it make more sense, which separately even from just bringing her back, giving her the redemption arc, which I do want because I love her, just would also at least make Multiverse of Madness within the larger MCU fit better and be more cohesive to the plot and story of the Multiverse Saga.
Colton, you've theorized in the past that you thought that this would end, Secret Wars would end with Wanda being redeemed by giving rebirth to the multiverse, right? By becoming like, she can't be a mother to her kids, but she can become a new mother to a new universe with her reality shaping powers. And I love that theory. I think that would be very fitting. Given what we've seen here, do you think something like that was always the plan, or are they making this up as they go along?
The answer's both. I mean, I do think Kevin Feige has a master plan. You know, he's on record saying, you know, they try to keep about a 5-year plan, but he acknowledges that things can be changed as they go along. I really do think that, you know, I said this earlier, I think WandaVision was setting us up to understand the sheer power of Wanda, and that her powers aren't just pew pew red lasers. She really can manipulate reality. And of course, at the end of Avengers Secret Wars 2015, we saw Franklin Richards, the son of Reed and Sue, he uses his powers, which are reality manipulation, to recreate the multiverse. I think that Avengers Secret Wars will be an in-canon reboot of the MCU. And I think that Wanda is the perfect character to bring in and have do that. So yeah, I think that has been the plan. I think they have been setting her up for a redemption arc. And I hope that even though Multiverse of Madness didn't pan out exactly how we want it, I hope that's still the case. And if I had to put money on it, I would say it is. I really do think that we are going to see her recreate the multiverse and have a significant role to play in the future of the MCU.
And I just want to clarify one thing here before we go. Colton never said that the babies falling in Flash was better than anything in the Spider-Verse movies. And he never said that that scene was better than the music note fight. I was trying to tease him a little bit, and I realized that I may have just taken a bridge too far by going back to him tweeting how much he liked The Flash, which I also liked, by the way. Just for the record, and you guys know this, you can follow us on our socials where you can see what we think about things. Brianna, what's your social again? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Brianna T. McClarty.
And of course, Brianna's on here all the time and writes videos for us. Colton, where can the people find your hot takes on The Flash and Spider-Verse?
Well, I'm always here on Screen Crush, of course, and you can find me on Twitter at Colton Ochran.
And I just want to remind everybody that the music note fight in Multiverse of Madness is, in fact, not very good. And Colton was right about that. But we want to hear from you guys about what you think of this original Multiverse of Madness script. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments, or you can @me on Twitter or our socials we just talked about. And if it's your first time here, hey guys, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.